So Packers are unlikely to extend middle linebacker Quay Walker. Again, this came from a tweet over on X from Michael Rodney. I want to give a shout out to him. Everybody go give him a follow at Packers Notes, okay? And he tagged Pete Doherty. If he had just said this, I'd be like, okay, is there anything? The fact that he tagged Pete Doherty in this tells me that obviously Pete Doherty probably said this somewhere. Reports are Packers are unlikely to extend middle linebacker Quay Walker. And again, at Packers Notes, put this tweet out there. The story reiterates everything I've been saying for the past 6 months. While Quay Walker is a solid player, the Packers have bigger priorities, and Tyron Hopper is seen as a viable replacement. So again, we've had a conversation about this all year. It's kind of split. I feel like here on the show, and I don't want to put words into our other co-hosts' mouths. I feel like Emilio's kind of in the middle. I don't really know what Jacob's take is. Tim has been a pretty big, Quay Walker fan, although he has acknowledged when he's had shortcomings, but he also feels like, I feel like Tim has felt like when Quay does have a big game, everybody just kind of goes quiet and doesn't talk about it, when he plays solid. And I've been kind of on the side of, we're probably moving on from Quay. I would like to have Quay back at the right price, but what is that price, right? That's really what it comes down to. And, we had the fifth-year option talk as well, and the fact that they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Usually you'd say, well, that tells you how they feel about him. But it was very unique for Quay because Quay being a linebacker, I don't understand why they still do this. It's wild. It's kind of like tied in years ago with Jimmy Graham and all that stuff in New Orleans. It's like when you're trying to calculate a market value or a fifth-year option or a franchise tag for a player, where Quay's a linebacker, there are outside linebackers in 34 defenses that get grouped in with the linebacker core as well. They're actually defensive ends is what they are. I don't know why they won't put them in that category. I mean, we know why the union doesn't want to do that because it does inflate the number in terms of the fifth-year option for stack backers. But in this case, that's why the Packers passed up on Quay Walker's fifth-year option. Now, they picked up Devontae Wyatt. You guys know I've been vocal there. I didn't feel like they should have done that. Would have liked to have Wyatt back at the right price. Felt like that was a little inflated for the fifth-year option. But nonetheless, you can see here that Michael Rodney over on X, he's saying, man, it looks like, they have bigger priorities and Tyron Hopper seen as a viable replacement. I agree with that. The reality, in my opinion, Isaiah McDuffie has played better football than Quay Walker. And it doesn't really matter what statistic, what category you look at. It just seems to be across the board. Now, I'll explain what I mean there. Let's talk about performance here with Quay Walker, okay? And these are the PFF grades. So you see Quay Walker this year, a 48.5 is the PFF grade. Now, again, there's some people that are going to hate that grade and hate PFF for it. There's others that are going to pretend like this is the gospel. I'm in the middle. I think it's a valuable tool. And I will say this, that when you look at his ranking here, he's 140th in overall defensive PFF grade. And then you hear the report earlier this year that the Packers made an offer to him. Quay didn't accept that offer, which tells me Quay and his camp think that's far too less of an offer. Seems like the Packers agree more with the PFF grade than obviously Quay Walker's camp does. And not that Quay would just bow down and go, oh, well, PFF's got me graded low. I guess I shouldn't take my money, right? So again, 140th, that looks bad. It's not everything though. So let's come through some of the other statistics. All right. So let's look at his career PFF grades first of all, and then we'll get into some of the stats. Starting in 2022, a 52 PFF grade. Then in 2023, he jumped to a 60. When you get in that 60 range, okay, maybe we got something here, right? Takes a step back in 2024 at a 57.4. And then this year took an even bigger step back at a 48.5. That is if you truly agree with PFF's grading system and trust the fact that that's kind of going on behind the scenes and they're not showing us which snaps are being graded a certain grade. Right now, let's comp that. Again, 140th in terms of PFF overall defensive grade amongst linebackers, guys. That's stack backers. Now, there are some edge defenders grouped in here too, with the way that sometimes some of these stats do. I know with some of the edge defenders are grouped in with the NFL Pro data I'm going to share with you guys. But PFF, I think they're pretty good about these are all stack backers. So that means there are 139 other stack backers that are graded higher than Quay Walker. Not a good look, right? So let's talk about stops. Again, what's a stop? According to NFL Pro, a stop is when a player makes a tackle on a play and it results in a negative play for the offense. It doesn't necessarily mean negative yards. It means a negative EPA, if that makes sense. Okay, so Quay Walker was tied for 28th in that stat with 54 stops. Okay, now we always refer to them as run stops. But you need to always mention, too, that there are some pass plays where a ball is passed underneath on a slant and the guy makes a tackle and it's only a 2-yard gain. They make a good play there. That could be considered a stop as well, right? But the majority of these are in the running game, especially when it comes to defensive linemen. However, with linebackers and secondary, the closer you get, the further you get back in the secondary, corner, and safety, it's more about the stops, probably making a tackle on a pass play, right? But nonetheless, Quay Walker amongst linebackers, and again, there are some edge defenders grouped in there as well. He was tied for 28th. That's not a bad stat, right? I mean, when you look up and go, okay, how much money would you be willing to pay Quay Walker? And you see, okay, well, he's 28th in stops. That's considered a number 1 caliber stack backer on a team in terms of stops, right? I think we would all agree, especially knowing that NFL Pro has some edge defenders in there that we can't filter out. So that checks out, and you go, okay, that's way different than that PFF grade, right? That's got him 140th. All right, let's move along. Passer rating when targeted. Passer rating when targeted. Quay grades out with a 105.6 passer rating when targeted. That's 86th amongst stack backers. Again, some edge defenders in there as well, but the most part, stack backers. So that would suggest he's not even a number 2 caliber stack backer in your nickel defense, right? I agree with this. This year he has struggled in the passing game. I feel like he struggled in some of the run fits as well, but you can't ignore the fact that he's tied for 28th in stops, right? He's done well there. Now you can go to stop rate and take it a little bit deeper and he'll probably sink a little bit. But again, trying to give Quay the benefit of the doubt here. So far you've got 140th amongst stack backers in PFF grade. You've got 28th in stops. And now you've got 86th in passer rating when targeted. Okay. So where does that put him? If you took all 3 of those and said, okay, they're equally important, not saying that they are, but just theoretically speaking here, what would that average out to? You know, would that put him somewhere in the, gosh, I don't know, just quick math. What would that be? Somewhere around the 90s? I didn't come up with the average there. I know what it doesn't come up to. It doesn't come up to a top 32 stack backer, right? And again, what's Quay wanting in terms of money? What was the offer from the Packers? We don't know that. It could have been $5 million per. Hell, it could have been $15 million per. Doubt it. I kind of feel like Quay probably would have taken that deal, but where's that number sitting at? Let's talk about calculated market value according to Spot Track, okay? Projected market value, calculated market value, they've got it at $9.8 million per. How did they come up with that number? It said comparable players. We've selected the following players based on their age, contract status, and statistical production to compare Quay Walker to. Listen to these names and tell me if you'd be willing to pay them $10 million per. Logan Wilson, Zaven Collins, Robert Spillane, Dump Truck Spillane there, and Yetur Gross Matos. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably butchered the hell out of that name. Those comps, it's talking about in terms of statistics and availability and everything in between. 3 years, $25.2 million, average salary of $9 million. Each of those age when signed were 26.8. 26.8 was the age when signed. Okay, so again, that averages out to a flat $9 million. Now, base calculated value. After adjusting the above contracts as if signed at Quay's current age of 25, a linear regression is performed, providing us with the following initial value. 5 years, $49.5 million, or an average annual salary of $9.9 million. Now, statistical comparisons, I'm not going to read them all off for time's sake here, but you guys can see it. And obviously in the Patreon group, you can see it. You can also go check this out on Spot Track. Awesome website. Love using them just to reference contractual things. But essentially what it comes down to is Quay Walker percentage change for each of these categories. Okay, game played percentage, he loses 10.8%. Snaps percentage, he loses 0.93%. Tackles per game, he's up 36%. So that's a huge jump. That's what he does well, right? He always tallies up a ton of tackles. The problem is, why don't you have more stops if you got that many tackles? You're not attacking aggressive enough. You're maybe not reading the run as quick enough. You're not reading the screen as quick enough, right? But again, 36.2, that's a positive. Sacks per game, 11.7 increase, okay? Stops per game, 24.1. Catch rate per year, minus 6.31. And then quarterback hurries per game is a minus 27.27. All right. The rating, minus 18.4, which we talked about that. So the median prime percentage change is negative 3.62%. Average prime percent change is a positive 1%. The calculated market value, according to Spot Track, at the end of the day, is 3 years, $29.3 million, or an average annual value of $9.7 million. Keep in mind, it doesn't mention anything about guarantees. You could typically lower that average salary number down, average annual value down, if you give more guaranteed money, but you're on the hook for that money. Therefore, they're probably going to be on your roster longer. You can inflate that number too and go, okay, we're going to give them $12 million per, but it's way less guaranteed. That seems to be the recent way that the Packers have tried to do business, right? You've seen it with Nate Hobbs. You've seen it with Banks, our left guard, right? Aaron Banks. Why do they do it that way? Higher average annual value, but you can get out of the contract quicker with less guaranteed money. As we said, both of those contracts are really just 1-year deals. Nate Hobbs is more of a 2-year deal. Aaron Banks is really a 1-year deal with the club option of 3 years on the backside, right? Because of the way the guaranteed money is structured. So again, just a quick little recap. Quay Walker, 2025 linebacker rankings. He's 140th in PFF grade, 28th in stops, and 86th in passer rating when targeted. Projected market value comes to $29.3 million, or 9.7 million average annual value. So that's the full breakdown of the Quay Walker situation here. Okay. Again, going back to that tweet, want to give him a shout out one more time, and I reached out to him. Hopefully he reaches back. Just let him know, hey, we're going to highlight you on the show and try to get him some more followers as well at Packers Notes. Okay. And again, Pete Doherty of, I think, the Green Bay Press Gazette, I believe it is. I hope I'm getting that right. It may be another news outlet. Reports the Packers are unlikely to extend middle linebacker Quay Walker. My guess is it kind of feels like his play's gotten worse after they offered him the contract, and his value has gone down in their eyes. They may have even pulled the offer. I'm waiting to hear that here in the future in terms of how that goes. But I'm curious to know how everybody else feels in the comments. If you're watching this video back later, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified. But let us know in the comments, how do you feel about Quay Walker? Do you want him back at that number? Let's just call it $10 million flat. Would you be willing to pay him that? Or do you feel like it's a little inflated? In my opinion, with what we've seen, I would rather stay in the area of maybe $7 million. If he takes it, great. If not, it's time to move on with Tyron Hopper. You got Isaiah McDuffie another year, and who knows? Maybe Colin Oliver ends up working with the stackbackers eventually. I don't know if he's going to be a true edge or not. That's what Matt said, which makes me think, I wonder if they're sending a smoke screen. But nonetheless, let us know in the comments how you feel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified in the future. Before we switch gears here and get on to the next topic, I want to hit some of these comments